In the heart of the eucalyptus forest, a baby koala named Kiko was enjoying a sunny afternoon, clinging to a low branch while nibbling on fresh leaves. The forest was calm, with the soft rustle of the wind and the distant calls of birds. But suddenly, the air was disturbed by an angry buzzing. A swarm of bees, provoked by some unseen movement, rushed toward Kiko. The little koala froze, terrified, as dozens of bees circled closer. With nowhere to escape and too young to climb higher, Kiko cried out, his small voice trembling through the forest. The bees began to sting, and panic spread through his tiny body. His fur bristled, his claws clenched, and his cries grew louder, echoing across the trees. Not far away, a group of kangaroos grazing in an open patch lifted their heads. The oldest among them, a strong male named Roan, twitched his ears. He recognized the distress call of the baby koala. Without hesitation, Roan bounded toward the sound, followed by two younger kangaroos, Lyra and Jax. They arrived to see the swarm attacking poor Kiko, his small form trembling on the branch. Roan leapt forward, his powerful legs slamming into the ground. The impact startled the bees, but they still lingered, buzzing furiously. Lyra and Jax circled the tree, thumping the earth with their strong tails, their movements creating vibrations that further disturbed the swarm. Slowly, the bees scattered, retreating back into the air, their angry hum fading into the distance. Kiko, though shaken and stung, clung tightly to the branch, his little eyes wet with fear. Gently, Lyra stretched her body upward, nudging him with her soft nose until he released his grip. She cradled him against her warm fur, soothing his trembles. The kangaroos formed a protective circle around him, watching carefully for any sign of the bees returning. With the danger gone, Roan led the group back to a safer grove deeper in the forest, where the air was calm and sweet with eucalyptus. Under the shade of tall trees, the kangaroos laid Kiko down gently. Jax carefully brushed his tiny fur with a paw, while Lyra licked the spots where the bees had stung him, easing the pain. Slowly, Kiko's breathing steadied, and his frightened eyes softened with relief. The kangaroos stayed by his side until he drifted into a safe sleep, surrounded by their warmth. That day, the baby koala learned that in the wild, courage often comes from unexpected. The forest was calm again, but little Kiko's breathing was shallow, and his tiny body twitched now and then from the lingering pain of the bee stings. The three kangaroos, Roan, Lyra, and Jax, watched over him with unwavering vigilance. They had driven the bees away, but their instincts told them the rescue was far from complete. In the wild, a young animal's survival depended not only on escaping one danger but on recovering enough strength to face the next. Lyra, the most gentle of the group, stayed closest to the baby koala. She nuzzled him every few minutes, keeping him calm as his fur quivered. His little paws clenched her chest fur as if afraid she would disappear. Roan, the towering male, kept his eyes scanning the trees, alert to any new threats. Even the sound of rustling leaves made him thump his tail, a warning signal to unseen creatures that they were not to come closer. Jax, the youngest, hopped in small circles nearby, restless and eager to help but uncertain how. He wanted to protect Kiko, but unlike Roan and Lyra, he didn't know what to do. Hours passed, and the golden glow of the afternoon sun shifted into the soft orange of evening. The eucalyptus leaves shimmered in the fading light, and the forest came alive with new sounds, frogs croaking, birds returning to their nests, insects humming. For the little koala, though, the world was still heavy. Each sting throbbed like fire beneath his fur, and his body felt too weak to hold on to Lyra for much longer. Sensing his struggle, Lyra carefully lowered him onto a soft patch of grass beneath the tree, patting the ground with leaves so he could rest. Roan approached and sniffed at the baby, his dark eyes narrowing with concern. Kiko whimpered softly, curling into a ball. Roan thumped his powerful tail on the ground twice, his way of calling attention. Jax immediately bounded over, ears flicking. "What now?" Jax seemed to ask with his restless hopping. Roan's gaze shifted toward the heart of the forest, where he knew there was a watering hole, a place where animals often gathered. Perhaps there, they might find others who could help. With a low grunt, Roan nudged Lyra and signaled with his posture. They would have to move. Lyra hesitated, licking Kiko gently one more time, as if to reassure him that everything would be fine. She leaned down, and with surprising tenderness, coaxed the baby koala onto her back. Kiko's small claws dug into her fur, holding tightly, while his nose pressed against her shoulder. He was weak, but the warmth of the kangaroo's body gave him courage to cling on. The journey began. The kangaroos moved slowly, not at their usual bounding speed, but in careful strides so as not to jolt the fragile koala. Roan took the lead, his ears constantly alert, while Jax hopped from side to side, scanning the surroundings like an eager scout. The forest at dusk could be dangerous. Dingoes prowled for food, owls swooped silently for prey, and snakes slithered unseen among the roots. But the kangaroos were determined. They would not let harm touch Kiko again. As they traveled, they passed other creatures who noticed the unusual sight. A family of wombats peeked from their burrow, blinking at the small koala riding on Lyra's back. A flock of cockatoos screeched overhead, curious about the procession. Even a shy echidna shuffled out of the bushes, pausing as if to bow in respect before continuing on its way. Word spread quickly through the forest. A baby koala had been rescued, and the kangaroos were protecting him. By the time they reached the watering hole, the sky had deepened into twilight, painted with shades of violet and silver. The moon was rising, casting a soft glow on the still water. Other animals had already gathered there. Possums chattered in the trees, wallabies lapped from the shore, and a wise old emu stood tall, watching over the place with calm authority. Roan approached the emu, lowering his head respectfully. The emu tilted his long neck, his sharp eyes scanning the little koala clinging to Lyra. The bees, Roan's body language seemed to say. The emu understood at once. He turned and motioned toward a patch of medicinal plants growing by the water's edge, plants that animals often used instinctively for healing. Lyra knelt down carefully, allowing Kiko to slide off her back and onto the cool grass. The emu plucked a few leaves with his beak and dropped them near the baby. Jax hopped forward eagerly, sniffing and pawing at the leaves before nudging them closer. With gentle encouragement, Lyra coaxed Kiko to nibble on the bitter herbs. At first, the taste made him wrinkle his nose, but as the juice slid down his throat, the soothing effect began to work. His trembling eased, and the sharp pain of the bee stings dulled to a faint ache. Other animals contributed too. A pair of possums brought strips of bark soaked in water, which Lyra used to cool the baby's sore spots. A kookaburra perched above, keeping watch and calling out whenever it sensed movement in the shadows. Even the shy wallabies lingered nearby, offering their quiet presence as a sign of solidarity. The entire clearing seemed to unite around the little koala, as if the forest itself had decided he must survive. Hours turned into a long, tender night. Lyra refused to leave Kiko's side, grooming his fur with gentle licks while humming soft, comforting sounds deep in her chest. Roan stood guard like a sentinel, his silhouette strong and unyielding against the moonlight. Jax, though restless, eventually curled up close to the baby, his young warmth adding to the cocoon of safety around him. By dawn, when the first rays of sunlight spilled across the trees, Kiko stirred with more energy. His little eyes blinked open, brighter than before, and his paws reached out for Lyra's fur. He tried to climb onto her back again, this time not out of fear but with the instinctive playfulness of a young koala. Lyra allowed him, hopping a few steps with him clinging tightly, while Jax bounded alongside, thrilled to see the baby stronger. Roan finally relaxed, though he still kept a watchful gaze. As the day warmed, Kiko's cries were no longer of pain but of curiosity. He pawed at Jax's ears, tugging gently, making the young kangaroo squeak in surprise. Lyra chuckled in her own way, nudging them both as if to remind them that play could wait until Kiko was fully healed. Still, the forest seemed lighter now, the tension of the previous day replaced with a quiet joy. In time, Kiko would return to his mother high in the eucalyptus trees, stronger and wiser from the ordeal. But he would never forget the night the kangaroos saved him, the warmth of Lyra's fur, the strength of Roan's vigilance, the restless energy of Jax keeping him company. And the forest, too, would carry the memory. Stories would spread among the creatures of how a swarm of bees had nearly claimed a young life, but courage, compassion, and unity had prevailed. For the kangaroos, it was not about glory or recognition. It was about balance, the unwritten law of the wild that the strong must sometimes protect the small, so that life in the forest continues in harmony. And for Kiko, though he was only a baby, the lesson was etched into his heart. Even in moments of fear and pain, there could always be hope, carried on the backs of unlikely heroes. That morning, as the sun rose higher and the eucalyptus leaves glittered with dew, Kiko snuggled against Lyra's chest, safe and content. The brave kangaroos had done more than rescue him from the bees. They had given him a second chance at life, wrapped in the unspoken bond of the wild.